75% of Americans believe that media bias is a bigger problem today than ever before. Are they right? Have you ever wondered why two people can watch the same news story and walk away with completely different opinions? Today, we're peeling back the curtain on media bias, a force that shapes not just how we think, but how we think about. Media bias has become a critical issue in today's world, where the news we consume has a significant impact on our perceptions and opinions. It's no secret that the media plays a crucial role in shaping public discourse and opinion. But what happens when this power is wielded with the biased hand? The consequences can be far reaching and devastating. The prevalence of media bias is a concerning reality that affects us all, regardless of our political leanings or beliefs. It's essential to recognize that media bias isn't confined to specific outlets or ideologies, but is a widespread phenomenon across the media landscape. While some justify bias as a natural resource of human subjectivity, its effects extend far beyond individual perspectives. Media bias can misinform, create misconceptions, and manipulate public opinion. As Urey puts it, even if you present all the facts and evidence in front of their eyes, they will refuse to believe even a single strain of it until something kicks their stomach. Acknowledging bias is the first step towards critical thinking and informed decision making. Let me paint a picture for you. It's 2020, and researchers at MIT make a shocking discovery. False news spread 6 times faster on social media than factual news. Think about that for a moment. False information doesn't just travel quickly, it raced ahead, shaping opinions, influencing elections, and even impacting public health before the truth can catch up. Remember the COVID-19 miracle cures that some outlets promoted? One infamous claim about hydroxychloroquine being a guaranteed cure led to a spike in demand, hospital shortages, and even tragic deaths from people self-medicating. When lies spread faster than facts, the consequences aren't just theoretical, they are life-altering. It's chaos wrapped in confusion. It's not just about health. Take 2018, for example. CNN reported on a study that said polar ice caps were melting at an alarming rate. Meanwhile, Fox News highlighted another study suggesting the ice caps were actually growing. So, which one is true? Here's a twist: both reports were biased, tailored to fit the agendas of their respective outlets. Neither provided the full picture, leaving viewers caught in the whirlwind of conflicting information. Media bias doesn't just stop there. A 2019 study by the Media Research Center found that CBS, CNN, and MSNBS devoted a combined total of 2,202 minutes to covering the Mueller investigation. Fox News? Just 435 minutes. This glaring disparity in coverage is yet another clear example of media bias in action. And let's not forget the scandals. In 2018, the New York Times was accused of burying a story about a Democratic congressman's potential scandal. Meanwhile, Fox News sensationalized a similar incident involving a Republican congressman. Two sides of the same coin. Both outlets' quality of manipulating the narrative to fit their biases. The examples go on and on, from elections to international conflicts. The media's selective storytelling affects us all. And here's the thing, it's not just about what's being reported, but how it's reported. Biased information reinforces our existing beliefs, pushing us further into echo chambers where opposing views are shut out. And critical thinking is stifled. Imagine this. You are flipping through TV channels, and two major news outlets are covering the same story. One shows footage of protesters holding signs, chanting peacefully, and standing together for a cause. The other shows fiery images of chaos with words like rioters flashing on the screen. It's hard to believe they're talking about the same events, isn't it? The power of selective reporting. A 2019 study revealed that during the first 2 years of Trump's presidency, 92% of evening news coverage on CBS, NBC, and ABC was negative. On the flip side, conservative outlets painted glowing portraits of the same administration. The same events, but two vastly different narratives. Now, think about the George Floyd protest in 2021. Some outlets called them peaceful demonstrations, while others labeled them riots. Neither term tells the full story, but both influence how we perceive the events. This selective framing doesn't just inform, it divides. It creates parallel realities where people can't even agree on basic facts, and that mistrust grows like a wildfire. And here's the result. Goda reports that only 34% of Americans trust the media to report the news fully and accurately. When trust erodes, democracy suffers. Take the 2020 US presidential election. Claims the election fraud spread like wildfire, amplified the media bias on both sides. The result? Widespread confusion and eventually the Capitol riots on January 6. When the media becomes a battleground for agendas, the very foundation of democracy begins to crack. Let's explore how media bias plays out in real life. Picture this, you are reading about climate change. One article screams that we're on the brink of an existential crisis. Another claims it's just a natural fluctuation. Both seem convincing, but they paint completely different realities. The New York Times is accused of softening the severity of climate change, while Fox News outright dismissed it. Who is telling the truth? Here's another scenario. The Covington Catholic High School controversy in 2019. Do you remember that outroar? The headlines were relentless. Teenagers harassed Native American elder. Outrage swept the nation. But as more videos surfaced, the story turned out to be more complicated than the initial reports suggested. Some outlets had rushed to judgments, prioritizing sensationalism over facts. These stories aren't just headlines, they are examples of how bias shape public perception. The language used, the framing, the choice of what to highlight, all of these elements creates a narrative. And when narratives are tailored to fit agendas, that leaves us questioning what's real and what's not. Now, let's get personal. Imagine sitting at a family dinner, then clinking of utensils drowned out by tense silence. You want to talk about the latest news, but you hesitate. Why? Because you know you will end up in the argument. A Pew Research study from 2022 found that 58% of Americans avoid political discussions with family and friends for fear of conflict. Think about that. Families torn apart not by politics itself, but by the polarized narratives fed to us by biased media. But it doesn't stop there. These narratives trapped us in echo chambers where we only hear views that confirm our own. It's like living in a hall of mirrors with no room for self reflection or growth. And when we are not exposed to opposing ideas, we lose the ability to think critically. Now, zoom out. Imagine this on the national scale. A democracy thrives on informed citizens. But when media bias distorts the truth, the democratic process suffers. Leaders aren't held accountable, and voters make decisions based on incomplete and skewed information. It's not just frustrating, it's dangerous. Let's face it, we all play a role in this. We love drama because we're wired for it. As humans, we just love drama. We crave excitement and compelling stories. The truth? It's often just not fun enough to grab our attention. That's why we're all complicit in the growth of fake news, myself included. I admit it, I love a juicy story, something that makes me sit up and listen. And I know I'm not alone. We fit the system because sensationalism is just more entertaining than the dry facts. We crave exciting stories and emotional twists. Think about it. How often do you click on the most sensational headline? Even if you suspect it's exaggerated, the media feeds us drama because that's what we demand. But what if we demanded better? What if we asked for facts instead of fireworks? The first step is simple. Paying attention to the language, words like chaos or heroic can tip you off to a story's bias. Next, compare two sources. See how different outlets report the same events. If the facts or framing differ widely, bias might be at play. And finally, follow the money. Who owns the outlets? What's their agenda? Corporate or political interests often influence editorial decisions, so understanding who is behind the story can provide critical context. It starts with us. By examining the language, comparing sources, and questioning who is behind the story, we can take back control of the narrative. Media bias doesn't have to control us. Let us be the ones to shape a future where truth matters more than drama. At the end of the day, the media is a reflection of us. If we continue to prioritize drama over truth, this cycle will only persist. So the next time you hear a story that seems too exciting or too outrageous to be truth, pause, ask yourself, is this real? Or is this just a kind of story I want to believe? Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And tell us in the comments what's the most shocking example of media bias you have encountered. See you in the next video.